Hello and welcome to Academy Live episode 34. In today's episode we are going to talk about wildlife photography with A1, and I'm going to go through all the different gadgets and how we did it, and also how I worked the lighting of these wild animals. So hang in there and I will show you some exciting stuff. Hello and welcome. As you can see, I'm here in the studio. Here is the overview of where I'm sitting. I'm on my own. There is no David here today. David is actually in Abu Dhabi, and he's following the Swedish team competing in the Special Olympics over there. And he is doing a documentary actually about the whole preparation and so forth. So it's going to be really exciting to see the results. And I know he's working really hard over there. And we see that we have already a lot of people signing in here from all different parts, Northern California, Scotland and Sweden as well. Hello everybody. And this is actually an episode that I was supposed to do together with my good friend Tom Svensson. And Tom Svensson is the guy that I actually, the photographer that I went down to Botswana and did this project. Tom Svensson is a conservation photographer, and with that means that he is using his imagery to kind of raise awareness around certain topics that are critical for us, and that's also something that I do support and feel strongly about. So it was really easy to decide on working with him. He can't be here either, since he is always out and about. He basically he's been to South Sudan, which is probably not the safest place to be there in, and he was there rescuing some chimpanzees that have been captured by locals and kept as pets. So he had managed to get them back, and then he's working together with an organization called African Apes, and they are making sure that these pet chimpanzees are not kept as pets. And after that he went to Africa, and then he went to Falkland Islands, taking pictures of surfing penguins and what have you. And right now he's in India, trying to capture some nice images of tigers, etc. And then I think he's coming home, changing bags, and then he's heading down somewhere in Africa again. I can't remember if it was Kenya, or I think it was Kenya where he's going. So he's always on the road. Unfortunately, it would be great to have him here, and we'll make sure that we get him over here whenever he stays in the country long enough. And he approached me and said that he had some crazy ideas, and he always have crazy ideas of images, but he needed light for this, and he felt he wanted to bring me along to help him out to light these images. He didn't say much, and we spent about a couple of years in planning and just getting the right permits and finding the right areas and so forth to capture these images. And what some of the big problems that Tom is really keen on getting out with his images is that, I mean, there is a big problem with the habitat loss for these animals. And what that means is that we as humans, we are spreading ourselves into the areas where the animals are normally living, and we're not spreading in the way that we're going there to live, and so we are using it to mine or exploit for palm oil, etc. And so that's a big problem. And the other one, we are also draining the nature of resources, both on wood and forests, but also the mining industry is doing big damages, especially in Africa. And then also the third problem is the massive pollution that's going on right now in the oceans. I mean, soon we're going to have more plastic in the ocean than we have fish, which is kind of a problem and not so nice. But we finally, in end of July, we jumped on a couple of planes and got ourselves to Botswana, in Maun in Botswana, and can take a look at some of had a couple of flat lays of the packaging. We were collaborating here. We got a lot of help from both Profoto and from Manfrotto, and with the equipment and so forth. It really helped us in being lightweight. But this was one of the bags where we had a lot of light stands, of course, or smaller stands, the pixie stands that you see down here close by the bag. We had some nanopole stands, and we had regular mono stands. We had this little green thing is really useful because you can just take water from basically anywhere and you press it through that and you get drinkable water and get about 150 liters out of this little critter here. And then we had, of course, flashes. I ended up leaving the B1s, the B1Xs at home because they are too strong for what we were doing. So the A1s became the heroes for us. And actually, even in this picture, which you might not see, but down here in this little hole in the middle, there's actually a B10, and we were using the B10 already in July, but that was also too strong for the type of images that we were going to take, but it was with us at least over there. And of course, tons of remotes, and I'll show you soon why we had all these remotes, and some other useful things like torches, and that both for your head and in your hand, and duct tape, of course, the savior of everything, and then plenty of batteries, which we also had in the carry-on, which was basically all lithium-ion batteries, the computers, and then the lenses and the camera. So I think only my carry-on weighed about 27.3 kilos. So I'm happy that they didn't stop me in any of the securities or start trying to weigh how much it was weighing. So I'm trying to look as light as possible. But you can't check in the batteries, and we were basically out in the bush, not in a park or a game reserve. It was in the real bush, and we were about 7 days before we hit down to any type of civilization, so we could recharge batteries and fill up with more AAA batteries, etc. And we were working during the night because, of course, with that, the images that he had, which I'll share with you soon here, I mean, we really wanted to capture the animals as they are working and living during the night. And this was a real bush, so it was not any type of habitated animals, so they were not used to us, which caused some problems, not only because they were scared of us, and scared animals are normally dangerous animals, but it's also that they were really, really hard to capture. I think we spent 7 nights out in the bush without any luck at all in the beginning. But during the days we were sleeping. This was base camp. Basically, it's a hammock between 2 trees, and then we had all the equipment, and also as we were sometimes during the night, we were using a Bushnell night camera. You could see, just take pictures around you, and you look at the screen, try to see what's happening. And right behind us, we had a hyena was really curious about our backpack that we put on under thorn bushes here. So it was kind of interesting, but you couldn't see anything because it was pitch black, and you didn't want to turn on the light because then you lose your night sight. Sleeping in tents, it was really cozy, but during the night we were out and about, hot days, and then during the night it was somewhere in between 8 degrees. We had some nights where we were like 5 degrees, only just slightly above freezing. And so we basically were not really prepared. So I was wearing basically everything I had with me every night. Is all the clothes I could carry with me. It was just on me. And so we were there, and we set some camera traps. And I'm going to show you kind of how we set the traps. I have it. Maybe if you see it here, so I have a laser over here that's showing going to this sensor here. So actually when I do that, when I break the laser, I don't know if you can see on over here that the camera is actually clicking and flashing. So the laser goes into a sensor here, and you can set, this is a Meops Smart, which is a really cool gadget, and you can either use a laser beam, which goes right here, to trigger the sensor. I have a cable between the Meops and a regular AirSync remote. And this one I put to transmit, because you can, these ones, the AirSyncs, you can either set them to transmit or to receive. So this one is transmitting, so whenever he's getting a signal from the Meops and that the laser is broken, he sends a signal over to another AirSync, which is right by the camera, which you can see over here. I can actually walk over and show you. So I have here, I have the AirSync. And this one is then connected just with a regular cable to the camera, where you normally set the trigger release. So you can either have those remotely or with a wire. And this one, basically, whenever the laser is broken, it tells you to pull the trigger here, and when it does, the air remote then triggers the flash. And I can have the flash on TTL if I want, and it will automatically adjust for whatever settings I'm having if the conditions are changing. So during the night we had it on manual because we knew exactly it's going to be pitch black, so we knew exactly how much power I needed on the flash. But in dusk and dawn, we kept the flash actually on TTL because it was light, and then it got darker and darker. So we had to start with a lot of power and then decreasing the power as we were moving forward. So a really cool setup, and with the Meops here, this little guy here, you can either have it triggered by a laser or sound. So you can have a clap and you can just change it to react on sound. Or you can also have it just like a light sensor. So for example, if you are shooting in the evening and there's a thunderstorm, for example, then you can just point this one out towards the sky, and whenever there's a lighting coming, it will trigger, and then the camera will go off, and then boom, you have a beautiful image of a lighting frozen. So that was one setup, and if we look at the Waterhole, as we had it here, here you can see on the right-hand side over here, you see a little black dot here. We put thorn bushes around here, so that the animals were kind of forced to drink from this side where we had the laser going. So I have a laser over here going to the left to this big tube here, and this tube was basically just regular PVC tube that we found, unfortunately or fortunately for us, but it was out in the nature. And then we just cut it up with our knives, and we put duct tape on it and sprayed some paint on it. And we put it on the myops. And the reason we did that is that this little sensor here, when the laser is pointing towards this one, it lights up, and especially when you are in pitch black environment, like in the bush, it was like a big red stoplight. And the first night, we couldn't figure out why the animal tracks close to the waterhole, they were approaching the waterhole, and then they turned away. They never went to drink, and it was really strange. Until we figured out when we were standing there, so, there's a big, strong light. So we put these tubes on, and then the same thing on the laser. We put this one on the laser. And then the animals could approach the waterhole without being disturbed by the fixed light. So any continuous light, that was really, really disturbing for the animals. And we see here's a close-up of the Manfrotto pixie stand with the trigger taped to one of the legs, and then the PVC tube. And here's the camera, and then we had the A1 flash. And for that, as you can see, under the camo nets and so forth, we did use these orange filters. So maybe I put it close to, let's see here, the orange filters, because we wanted to have this kind of warm tone in the image, so that the animals would be look like this, like kind of warm light. We did that with most of the images. We did take one image of a hyena where we wanted to have kind of more colder moonlight shining on him. And so that's the setup. We used a camera, and you can see on the lens, it's a really wide angle lens. It's a 16 millimeter wide angle. So we really wanted to make sure that we captured the animal. And the trick here was that we wanted to have the sky as well, with all the stars. And in order to do that, we had to set the camera on an exposure for about somewhere between 15 and 20 seconds, and have a really long shutter time, or shutter speed. This means that we used, whenever the animal came and broke the laser beam, then it triggered the flash, and it froze the animal, and then the camera continued the exposure for the night sky, and then you get the sky. So all taken in one image. And then so every 20 seconds you could take a new picture, but it would take you 20 seconds to take a new image. And that was not a problem with the flash. They never reacted to flash. They stayed. I mean, we had one leopard was staying for 5 images. So that means it was also 1 minute and 40 seconds. And so every 20 seconds there was a flash. They didn't react on that. But when we tried with continuous light, it didn't work. So continuous light did not work because they reacted, and that's why we had any continuous light, even the smallest one, like the ones we had here on the laser, that was enough for them to cause problems. And here we see Tom setting the camera appropriately. I mean, we used exactly the same principles as you do with any other, if you're shooting a portrait, etc. So you start with setting the exposure on the camera for the background. How do you want the background? How blurry do you want it, etc. So there we started with, and that's what Tom is doing over here. He's setting, making sure that the picture is sharp at the right place, etc., where the animal is. And here another image of Tom by the waterhole, and as you can see, the thorn bushes, and we had laser on the right side, and then the MEOPS trigger on the left side, and then the camera and the flash, the A1 flash in the middle. And here we also again set the direction in a way that we wanted the light to hit the animals. So now it's just about to become night, and we're going to start our night of work. So we basically make sure that everything was in place, all the batteries were fresh, and then we went away so the animals could come in. And here's actually one image of we had when we shot the hyena picture, which you'll see in a short while. We actually put the flash up in a tree, but then again, if you have something black sticking out, animals are so sensitive, and that's when we had to put camo net on it. But in there's an A1 on a just with steel wires. We put it on the tree. And then, so that was one setup where we used the lasers. I'm going to turn off this. And then the second one we used, we had exactly the same setup by the camera. So we have the camera with an RTTL, which is controlling the flash. And then we used the air sync by the camera so that it actually triggered whenever it was needed. And then we used one of these regular air remotes. And this one, just like these ones, but when you press the mode button and turn on, you get a little beep. And that means it does not go into sleep mode. And this is a really cool trick if, for example, if you are putting the camera, let's say you're putting it way up in the roof in the studio to shoot a kind of an overview, or if you have the camera way off and you want to trigger it from somewhere else. It's good to know that otherwise, if you don't hold the mode button and turn and hit the bottom and get the beep, it will actually go to sleep and then it will not trigger. So that's what they do to save battery. But if you do that, it will stay on until the batteries are out. And so what we did, we left the cameras by the waterhole, and the night is over, and it started to be, the morning was coming. And in the morning, when the predators have been out and about drinking, all the lions and leopards and hyenas, in the morning when light comes, that's when the prey, the grass eaters come, all the impalas and wildebeest and zebras and so forth. What we did then is that we wanted to capture some images of these, but the African sun is really it's so strong even early in the morning that you get really sharp shadows, and it's very contrasty images. So we wanted to use the flash just as a fill and just to lighten the shadows a little bit in order to get these some of the faces, get the structure and the details in the animals that you can see here in the image. And here the light is coming, which you can see on the shadows. As you see, the shadows are falling from the animals towards the right, which means we have the sun on the left side. So what I did there is that I put also again the light coming from the same direction as the sun. So the light is coming from here on the left side, which means that you actually get a natural feel, even though there's plenty of flash in this image, because otherwise you would not see the faces and the eyes. And also here you see in the eye of the impala here, you get a little bit of catch light in there as well, which you would not be able to see otherwise. But again, when you do it, if I were put it on the right side and having light, then you would have two light sources meeting each other, the sun and also the flash coming from the other side. It would look flashy. And that's what we were trying to avoid. And then, so that's also one important thing to think about as you are lighting. Try to use the background to really let the background dictate how you light the thing. So in this picture with the impala, we had sun coming in from the left side, which is, well, from here, my left, this is your left, well, anyway, so from the left side, and so the sun is coming in here, then I need to light it from here as well and try to sneak it in so I can light a little bit on the face. But still the direction needs to be the same as the sun. And also the background dictates also the quality of light, which means should I use hard light or soft light? And now with the sun, it's a really, really small light source and gives you really hard light with sharp shadow edges. So I need to match that. So I need to match that with my light. And then luckily, of course, the A1 is a small light source, and then it's move it away a little bit, and you have an even smaller light source, and then boom, you have the same same quality of light as you have with the sun. And so that's kind of how we did these pictures with this guy. And here we had the camera and the flash on place, and then we were hiding as far away as we could be, but still see the waterhole. And we made sure that the wind was blowing towards us, from the waterhole towards us, so that they couldn't pick up the scent from us, because we stink, human, and animals don't like human scent at all. And we learned that pretty fast. And so then we used this one, and then we could just, whenever we saw that animals were approaching the waterhole and they were there drinking, then we could just hit the button and boom, up to 300 meters or 1,000 feet away, then we could trigger the flash, which is really neat. And so this is a setup that can also be used if you're, let's say you're shooting a football game and you put a camera in the goal or behind the goal, and you want to stand somewhere else and you see something's happening, then you can just trigger the camera or a camera with flash. Flash is normally not so popular when you play football games, but anyway, but you can still trigger it from a very, very much further away than any other type of remote that you have. So it's really convenient. So this one you can just fire away as much as you want. Very convenient. Again, I have one air sync by the camera and one air remote in my hand, and then I can just fire away. And also, if I need to, I can go in and change the power of the head. I can turn off the flash. I can turn on the flash and set the energies and so forth. So, really convenient solution, which I don't think a lot of people think about that you actually can use it. We were planning also to take some pictures of hippos. Hippos are really cool. They're extremely dangerous, but we wanted to have a picture of hippos during night. And they stay in the water for a long, long time. And there was this one river right where we were living, close by. And so it was all dried out. It was before the rainy season started. And as we were driving on the dried riverbank, we were checking out kind of where the animals were going up and down. And here you'll see, as we are driving and trying to check out, and all of a sudden in front of us is a small hippo baby that pops up. So we'll see if so he comes here he comes running, and he's panicking and jumping into the water. And I was all excited, and I'm like, wow, cool, a little hippo baby. But Tom immediately, he froze and said, okay, where is the mother? And that was so true. That was the bigger problem that we had, handling the mother, which was behind us, because now we were in between her baby and also the water. So we were a big threat. So it was really crazy. So now David says, can you show it to camera? What do you want me to show to camera? I can absolutely do that. So tell me what part do you want me to show closer to the camera. We can, when I'm rounding up here, I'll take a walk with the gimbal, and I'll show you the details and so you can see all the different details about the cables and so forth. So that was the hippo that we wanted to take. But then, of course, what happens? Rain comes further up north, and with that came all the water down the river, and then the riverbank was flooded, so we couldn't drive there anymore. And so we couldn't take any pictures of hippos. So we set the traps, we're waiting every night, 10, 12 hours in the cold, freezing, waiting, hoping, nothing happens, no animals. I mean, in the beginning they were reacting to the light, the laser point that we have, all these small things, and we fixed those day by day, small gadgets with these tubes that we put on so they couldn't see the lights, etc. And then finally we saw that one camera had triggered. And we were all happy, excited. Okay, what is it? Is it a lion? Is it a hyena? Or the thrill would be the leopard. That was the elusive one that we were really trying to capture by night. And what did we get? A LBB. That's a little bloody bird, as we call it. So all the birds were LBBs. So either it's a little bloody bird or a large bloody bird. I'm not a big bird fan, but a bird was the first that kind of landed right by the laser and triggered the camera. So we got a bird picture. And you can imagine, we were thrilled that something triggered it, but it was a bird. Not so exciting. Couple of more nights, and then finally we got a visitor. And that's when the hyena came. And he triggered the flash, and this is with a 16 millimeter, so you can just imagine how close he is to the camera. Maybe it's like 1 or 2 feet, which is maybe 20, 30 centimeters away from the camera. So really up close. A curious young hyena came. And then again, we took the same picture, the picture the same way, that way we left the shutter speed open, and then the stars in the sky actually came through and exposed in the same image. So it's one image straight out of camera, and so there's bits and pieces that you can work on or clean up, but we didn't want to do that with this because it's not a fashion picture. But the hyena came, and we were all happy and jumping of joy, and finally we knew that the system is working and animals can actually trigger it. And so we continued with the persistence, and we were there for almost 3.5 weeks out in the bush, and I was scared continuously. Tom, he was calmer because he's used to it, but there were a couple of incidents that happened with some lions, etc., where we actually, even he got scared. So I'm not sure about if I'm going to do that again, but I know that he wants me to go and do some other interesting projects in the future. So again, continued waiting, and then finally then it happened. The leopard came right by our waterhole, and as you can see also here high up in the night sky, you can see the big bright spot. That's Mars actually visible, and then you have the leopard drinking, and you can see the orange light in there. It's the CTO that's kind of helping out, and we also wanted him to kind of creep into the light, and so really coming in, so we positioned the light in a way that it would just barely light up the half of the animal, and with there we kind of sneak into a pocket of light, and we get this warm tone, which matches also the warm tone of the leopard, and so that's the first success. David Henderson here is asking a breakdown of our methods would be great for a book. Is there a pro for the book, or are there plans to write one? Actually, yes, there is a plan for that, and David is writing a book, or actually the book is written, so now we are just waiting for a publisher to pick it up, and for that we need a certain number of people to kind of sign up for pre-orders, even though they're not real pre-orders, but just sign up that they're interested in a book like that. And you can find that signature, the site where you do that is on bicho.se, so bicho.se. That's where you can go and sign up for that you would be interested in a book like that, where David breaks down all, kind of like a book of light. And then finally, when that first leopard, or when the hyena came, and after that we got the leopard, and we even got another shot of the leopard, and this is the one that he stayed drinking for about a minute and 40 seconds. So he was continuously drinking over again. So you get a whole series of this leopard as he's drinking. And here we wanted to light him a little bit more, as you can see, compared to the other picture. And then again, it's all in one image. You use the flash to freeze the animal, and then you let the camera continue, stay open for about anywhere between 13 and 20 seconds, depends on what lens you are using, and then expose it, get the night sky, the African sky, which was crazy amount of stars, because there's no light pollution coming at all. And both of these images, we were really approaching the lighting in exactly the same way as you would light a person. And so it's like a 4-step process. Number one, I start with exposing the camera for the background. How do I want the background to be? Do I want it to be pitch black? Do I want to have the night sky in there, etc.? So I decide the shutter speed for how bright I want the image. And then, of course, the aperture controls the blurriness. Do I want a shallow depth of field or a very long depth of field? And once that is done, I don't touch the camera. The canvas is done. Now it's all about lighting, and that's when I start doing the lighting. And the background is also, again, so important, because it dictates how I do my lighting. It will dictate where the light is coming from. If I have the moon on the left side, I need to have the flash on the left side. If I have Mars kind of in the middle of the frame, then I need to have the flash coming in from the same type of way. Or if I have the sun coming in from the right, then I need to have the flash also coming in right, because that gives you the natural look, and you just enhance and you move around. Move around a little bit so that you're still coming from the same direction. Also the power, depending on the background. If it's really, really dark, you only need a little bit of light, just enough to light up whatever you're shooting. And if you have too big of a difference between the background really dark and the object really bright, that's when you get flashy images. So the power level also, again, is dictated by the background. If I have a bright background, then I can smack on with a lot of power, but if I have a dark background, I need to be careful with the flash. And that's also why we really enjoyed working with the A1, because that one I can take it down so low, really low on power, that you can't do that with like a B1X or even the B10. They're too strong. You could put ND filters or something else that darkens it, or move it further away, of course. That also lowers the power level. But then the risk is, as you're moving it away, you are lighting up a larger area. The imprint of the light image is bigger. But then again, and then also the quality. The background, depending on what's happening in the background, if it's a cloudy day and you have a really soft light coming in from the big softbox called sky with clouds, then I need to match that with a soft light, with a big light source. And then if it's a sunny day with the sharp shadows, then I need to match it with the sharp or hard light as well. It gives you the same sharp shadows. And then after that, I use the same, when the camera is set, I look at the distance, how far away do I want the flash? And then thirdly, I look at the direction, from where do I want the light to come and where do I want the shadows to fall? And then the shape to decide how hard or soft I want the light. It's really simple. So exactly the same process. And then also, so that's basically it. And now I see I got some warning here that something happened with the connection. So I'll pop this up on Facebook, and also I put it up on, oh, so now it's paused. So let's see if we are back on track. If If we are not, if it's only a sound, I will put this on YouTube, this clip. But I'm really close to the end, with one last message to you guys. There's stuff that we all can do with the environment and also the animals. One, do not litter, and if you see something out there, pick it up and throw it, put it in the bag and throw it away in the appropriate way. And also with regards to palm oil, don't buy products with palm oil, because that really is damaging the habitat for the animals. They're really taking that away. And so if you see products with palm oil, don't buy them. It's that simple, because they do absolutely no good. They're only cheaper for the manufacturer, and that's it. And it's not that the product gets cheaper for you. And then the third one is, don't take these touristy pictures with animals, because they suffer a lot and they die. They get beaten and they die, and it's really, really sad. So please don't take images with animals like we have chimpanzees, or with tigers, and also or going riding on elephants, because they get beaten so hard, and which is really sad. So there are plenty of things we can do, and then we can all enjoy these animals, and our grandchildren can also enjoy these. But that's it for now, and then we'll see if this actually now got paused. So I'll have to repost this as a video, but I'll put it up in there so you can capture the last bits and pieces. And I think with that we'll close this one. And next week we will be having a guest. It's going to be Andrea Beluso is coming in here, and we're going to talk about all these different types of hard reflectors that we have here. The telezoom, the zoom reflector, magnum, and so forth, because he's really big into using all these different types of hard reflectors. So I want you guys to learn from Andrea and see how he's working with all these cool hard reflectors. So that's for next week. See you then.